want you to use that phone. If you lose interest in my remarks later, you can Google it. I gave the first major speech on China in our administration in 2018. I worked on it with the president. I mean, it was our administration statement, but we basically drew a line in the sand and said, we're taking a different approach to China. After years of trade abuses, billions of dollars in intellectual property theft, military provocations in the Asia Pacific, unspeakable human rights abuses in China itself, we just said the old days are over. I mean, America about 25 years ago kind of basically made a bet. It was that if we increase economic exchange and trade with China, that China would essentially move in the direction of freedom. The truth is the opposite has happened. The more wealthy China has become, largely at the expense of the United States, the more closed their society has become and the more authoritarian their society has become, repressing religious freedom, repressing human rights, and becoming more aggressive in the wider world. So I think the way you deal with China, China is the greatest economic and strategic threat the United States faces in the 21st century. It can only be met with American strength. What we got to do is we got to push back on the Biden administration's continuous attempts to cut military spending. We quite frankly, this debt ceiling deal that they just did, which look, you got to pay the nation's bills. I'm not being critical. But if they don't get the 13 appropriations bills passed, you're going to end up with a 1% cut in military spending after inflation at a time when China's dropping a new battleship in the Pacific about every month. Okay? I mean, what we need is a military fitted to the times. And it's going to take vision, it's going to take leadership, it's going to take a brand of leadership that can actually bring Republicans and Democrats together to say, here are the challenges we're facing in the world, and we need an armed forces of the United States for the 21st century challenges. Secondly, I think the time has come for us to use access to the economy of the United States of America to demand that China open their markets to what we make and what we grow. If they don't open their markets, we ought to continue to raise tariffs on China's access to the United States of America. We began that, $250 billion in tariffs. It actually brought them to the table. We had a phase one trade deal that had some good outcomes for agriculture. Do you remember that, Congressman? We got a long way to go for China to open up. It all begins with security. We've got to stand strong. Peace comes through strength, and I promise you, if I have the privilege of being President of the United States, we're going to meet this moment with a strong armed force of the United States, a strong commitment to the Asia Pacific and to our interests there, and we're going to strengthen the American economy by demanding that China level the playing field and open their markets to what we grow and what we make. So help me God, I promise you that. Time to get tough. Ma'am.